to the people, you know what I'm saying? When they saw people, they weren't like, you can't be sending people up that don't know what people look like. I know if I'm sitting on a spaceship, I know somebody's going to come and talk to me because I'm a black woman and people talk to black women. People just come in, you know. And, you know, they do. Everybody does. And say, hey, baby. And then goes, I'm Miss Nikki, you know, I'm from the other side of Mars. Y'all haven't been over there. I said, well, come on in, baby, talk to, you know. And my mother drank beer, so I'm not going to go that far without a beer. We have to be friendly. You know what I'm saying? So I said, come on in, baby, let's have a beer. And I tell them who I am, they tell me who, and then we land. You know, if I'm lucky, I can start it up, and then I come back and I met the nicest Martian. And they say, Nikki, crazy, ain't no Martians up there. But I will know that I met the nicest Martian. And so if nobody else knows that I met the nicest Martian, I do. And when you meet nice people, no matter what other people have to say about it, you can't let other people distract you from what you know. I wrote a poem, We're Going to Mars, because I also know the only way, I got an opportunity. I never do understand why people invite people like me to speak, because I'm truly crazy. But NASA, you know how NASA invited me to speak, and so I don't have to tell anybody to know what month it was, right? It was very, you know what I'm saying? The woman who runs my office is really a sweetheart. She's very good. And she said to me, Nikki, we got a request from NASA for you to speak, but you know, my February is closed pretty early. She said, but I told him, I don't think we can do it. I said, Jenny, I said, Jenny, we clear for NASA. I was totally thrilled. I mean, if there was anybody I wanted to talk to, it was the 600. I was in D.C., for those of you who know that. And it's like 600, essentially white guys, a couple of white guys. There was 600 white men who you could see, in all fairness to the white guys, is like, I don't know, one of them, no poet. And, you know, it's very like. And so I understood that, and sometimes you have to understand, just because people don't want you there doesn't mean you can't be there, you know what I'm saying? And so to hell with that, I did look good. If you wait to be wanted, you're not going to go anyplace. So I did, I looked good. And I was happy because it made me happy, because I knew something that they didn't know. I knew that I knew more about what they were doing than they do. They were dealing with the science, and I'm dealing with the art. And so I just wanted to say to them, which I did. I wrote this poem for NASA. You can't go to Mars unless you understand middle passage, which is why when you have gone where you have gone in the universe, you can send your machines, but you can't send a human being because you know damn well you don't know what you're going to get back. That's true. That's true. Somebody just needs to tell them that. And so I think in all fairness to me, I finally did get their attention. Because I like NASA and I like space. But I know that we can't talk about space until we more thoroughly examine middle passage. Because that is a phenomenon. When we look at Europeans who paid money to come to America, who could not have arrived with the good spirit that those of us who were dragged here did. It's a phenomenon. And some of you are history majors, some of you are sociology majors, some of you are psychology majors. But this is the story of planet Earth in the 21st century. This is the story. These people are the story. We need to understand. I wrote a poem for NASA. It's called Quoting the Black-Eyed Pea. We're going to Mars. We're going to Mars for the same reason Marco Polo rocketed to China, for the same reason Columbus trimmed his sails on the Dream of Spices, for the very same reason Shackleton was enchanted with penguins, for the reason we fall in love. It's the only adventure. We're going to Mars because Perry couldn't go to the North Pole without Matthew Henson, because Chicago couldn't be a city without Jean-Baptiste de Sable, because George Washington Carver and his peanut were the right partners for Booker T. It's a life-seeking thing. We're going to Mars because whatever is wrong with us will not get right with us, so we journey forth carrying the same baggage, but every now and then leaving one little bitty thing behind. Maybe you drop torturing hunchbacks here, maybe drop lynching Billy Budd there, maybe not whipping Uncle Tom to death, maybe resisting global war, one day looking for prejudice to slip, one day looking for hatred to tumble by the wayside, one day maybe the whole community will no longer be vested in who sleeps with whom. One day maybe the Jewish community will be at rest, the Christian community will be content, the Muslim community will be at peace, and all the rest of us will get great meals on holy days and learn new songs and sing in harmony. We're going to Mars because it gives us a reason to change. If Mars came here, it would be ugly. Nations would band together to hunt down and kill Martians. And being the stupid, undeserving life forms that we are, we would also hunt down and kill what would be termed Martian sympathizers. As if the fugitive slave law wasn't bad enough. As if the so-called war on terrorism isn't pitiful now. When do we learn? And what does it take to teach us? Things cannot be what we want, when we want, as we want. Other people have ideas and inputs, and why won't they leave right down alone? The future is ours to take. We're going to Mars because we have the hardware to do it. We have the rockets and the fuel and the money and the stuff. And the only reason NASA is holding back is they don't know if what they send out will be what they get back. So let me slow this down. Mars is 1 year of travel to get there, plus 1 year of living on Mars, plus 1 year to return to Earth. Equals 3 years of Earthlings being in a tight space, going to an unknown place with an unsure welcome awaiting them. Tired muscles, unknown and unusual foods, harsh conditions, and no known landmarks to keep them human. Only a hope and a prayer that they will be shadowed beneath a benign hand. And there is no historical precedent for that except this. The trip to Mars can only be understood through Black Americans, let's say. The trip to Mars can only be understood through Black Americans. The people who were captured and enslaved immediately recognized the men who chained and whipped them and herded them into ships so tightly packed that there was no reason to turn, no privacy to respect, no tears to fall without landing on the state of other souls, no. The men with whips and chains were understood to be killers, feared to be cannibals, known to be sexual predators. The captured knew they were in trouble in an unknown place without communicable abilities with a violent and capricious species. But they could look out and still see signs of home. They could still smell the sweetness in the air. They could see the clouds floating above the land they loved. But there reached a point where the captured could not only not look back, they had no idea which way back might be. There was nothing in the middle of the deep blue water to indicate which way home might be. And it was that moment when a decision had to be made. Do they continue forward with a resolve to see this thing through, or do they embrace the waters and find another world? In the belly of the ship a moan was heard, and someone picked up that moan and a song was raised. And that song will offer comfort and hope and tell the story. When we go to Mars, it's the same thing. It's middle passage. When the rocket red glares, the astronauts will be able to see themselves pull away from Earth. As the ship goes deeper, they will see a sparkle of blue. And then one day, not only will they not see Earth, they won't know which way to look. And that's why NASA needs to call Black America. They need to ask us, how did you calm your fears? How were you able to decide you were human, even when everything said you were not? How did you find the comfort in the face of the improbable to make the world you came to your world? How was your soul able to look back and wonder? And we will tell them what to do. To successfully go to Mars and back, you will need a song. Take some Billie Holiday for the sad days and some Charlie Parker for the happy ones. But always keep at least one good spiritual for comfort. You will need a slice or two of meatloaf. If you can manage, and if you can manage it, some fried chicken in a shoebox with a nice, moist lemon pound cake. A bottle of beer, because no one should go that far without a beer. And maybe a six-pack, so that if there is life on Mars, you can share. Popcorn for the celebration when you land, while you wait on your land legs to kick in. And as you climb down from the ladder, from your spaceship to the Martian surface, look to your left, and there you'll see a smiling community quilting a black-eyed pea, watching you descend. I'm a native Tennessean. I was born there. During the age of segregation, when you couldn't see the same amusement park or the same movie theater, when the white guys would cruise up and down the streets and call out to you, when the black guys were afraid of being lynched. But we went to church each Sunday and we sang a precious song. And we found a way not to survive. Anything can survive, but to thrive and believe and hope. I'm a native Tennessean. I was born there. But I was only 2 months old when my mother and father moved my sister and me to Cincinnati during the age of segregation, when Dow drugstores wouldn't serve us, when neighborhoods were redlined. but at least mommy could get a job teaching, and daddy could get a job behind the desk. And after all, if you are a college graduate, that's the least you can expect. Though the Pullman porters took us south each summer and marched over us with an unfailing faith and got us from there to here. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. I was born there, in the only state in rebellion that didn't have to undergo Reconstruction, in the volunteer state that sent as many for one side as another, in an area where if I just have to have a car breakdown, I would prefer any holler to any city neighborhood. There was no work and no way, and the chronic angers that flared would chase us to Ohio. We were not liars crossing the river, just four people, two in love and two who were loved, who needed to put a rest to the rage. But the rage stayed, and someone had to go. I chose me, but I was born there, so the going was a coming. I'm a native Tennessean. I take no joy in David Crockett nor Jim Boyd. They were wrong to be at the Alamo. They were wrong to fight for the theft. I love James. I loved Thunder Road, though I, a native Tennessean, was not allowed to play a bit part when the crew came to town to film the movie. Ingrid Bergman and Anthony Quinn came to take a walk in the spring rain. And despite it all, I like Andrew Jackson. At least he knew the big guys were wrong. I'm a native Tennessean. I graduated Fisk University in Nashville. I know that the freedmen paid for that school. Nobody gave them anything. Pennies and nickels and prayer and determination the freedmen paid for, and many others. I know the American Missionary Society took the money the Jubilee Singers made to save this and used it for other purposes. I know the American Missionary Society was wrong. I was educated by the singers of those songs. I love those songs. How could I not love Nashville? How could I not love Dinah Shore, who invited the Jubilee Singers to sing at the Grand Ole Opry, and then had to hear the rumors she sang until she saw the USA in her Chevrolet. I once saw her on an airplane. I was going to the cabin. She was in first class. I said, hey. She smiled and said, hey, that. When I got Georgia on my mind, I rode the Chattanooga Choo-Choo to Lookout Mountain. I saw Memphis and was enchanted. From the mighty Mississippi gracefully turning all red to Bill Street beats at midnight. All those blues from so many bloods decided to turn my blues to Memphis gold. W.C. Handy, Bobby Blue Bland, B.B. King, the late, great Johnny Ace, stacks and stacks of music, American music. The Athens of the South held Tennessee music, but Memphis put the tears to the lonely and crossed over. Everybody wants to rock to my rhythm. I am Memphis. I heard the shots that took Martin. I know who killed the king. I'm a native Tennessean. I know what it is to be free. I am singing the country blues. I am whittling a wooden doll. I'm underground mining coal. I am running moonshine. I'm a white boy with a banjo, native to West Africa. I'm a black boy with a twang, native to the hills. I am smart. I am cool. I am unafraid. I am free. Yeah, I'm a native Tennessean. I started writing, and I don't know why. You go through periods, those of you who enjoy writing. And I just realized I was writing longer and longer and longer, and I finally said to myself, you have to write something short. But, because it just goes on and on, and there's just so much information. And I like that, it's fun to do it. When you get to be my age, you do what you want to do, and people say, oh, it's too long. You say, what the hell, don't publish it. But I am a very proud member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. My mother is a Delta, my sister is a Delta, my two aunts are Delta, so it was really nice. And we celebrated our 100th anniversary last year in 1913. We celebrated the 100th anniversary, and it was so wonderful because I think a lot of times people don't realize this is not Nikki on Delta because, I have to tell you this, and I probably shouldn't. No, I was a friend of Rosa Parks, and actually my mother died in June, my sister died that August, Rosa died that October, my aunt died 2 weeks later. So it was like all of a sudden I have all of these old ladies around me. I was the baby in the family, and I went inside of 3 months from being a baby to being an elder. But I used to spend time in this park because it's wonderful. I met, by the way, and I just want to share that. Virginia Tech had a tragedy. Finish your sentence. Virginia Tech had a tragedy, and Queen Elizabeth came to. She was coming for the horse show, but when she did, she didn't come to see me. But her people called, as it were my people, to say Queen Elizabeth would like to meet you. And I thought, well, that's nice. How often do you get to meet Queen Elizabeth? So it's like, I'm cool with it, And so people were, that's true. I was happy to do that. But people were saying, I need to explain to you what to do, and I said, wait, well. First of all, I know Mrs. Parks, so I know how to treat a queen. Right? Yeah, I'm not gonna have her tell me how to treat you, but thank you. Mrs. Parks is such a wonderful person, and you could tease Mrs. Parks. She was a very strong personality, as you well know. She's a very strong personality, as you well know. But you could tease her about one thing or another. And sometimes we'd be sitting, because I'm a coffee drinker, Miss Parks was not a drinker. And so we'd just be sitting there, and I would say something like, Miss Parks, it's amazing when I think about your life, that you went through your whole life, and as far as I can see, you only made one mistake. And her face, if it would fall, she would let me pull this on here, like every 3 or 4 years I could pull it, because she forgot to use it. And she was, very calmly, because she was an incredible calm, as you know, personally. And what would that be, baby? I said, you went AKA. She and Coretta only made one mistake. She should have been a judge. But for those of us who are not a part of the Black sorority movement, we were all AKAs. We began life as an AKA. And the suffragette movement came up, and a part of the group wanted to march for the suffragette. And the suffragettes, Susan Anthony, they're American. And so they didn't really want to have the black women marching with them. So they finally said, because we were taking no, the group was taking no for an answer, they finally said, you can march, but you have to march behind. We cannot have you integrating in the march, you have to march behind. And the AKAs, to our mother sorority's credit, said we don't want to march behind. And so we're all at Howard, as you know, Howard University, and we had the meeting. 21 of us said, I think it's more important to be there than where we are. Because if black women hadn't been a part of the suffragette movement, it would have not carried black people forward. And so it was important, and so that's what happened. Those 21 women broke off from the AKAs and became Delta Sigma Theta. And of course, yeah, and we're proud of it, because we are, almost any black woman that you see in public service is going to be a Delta, because that's what we do. Barbara Jordan and all of that. That's what we do, Yvonne Brathwaite, just look at the congresswomen and stuff, they're almost all Delta. Of course, anytime you look at the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, it's going to be the AKAs, because that's what you all do. They do big business, and they do it very, very well. And then anytime you see a small business owner that's doing very well, it's usually a Zeta, because they own their own business. It's very important. Somebody who owns their own business, their own hairdresser, barber, whatever, that they own their own apartments, they're Zetas, because Zetas are business women, and that's what they do. And all of us do sort of different things, and I think that's really good. I, of course, I'm a Delta, so I wrote this for the Deltas, but I recognize that the sorority movement in its various aspects is really important. And of course, we Deltas, as we know, because Nelson Mandela died now a couple of months ago, and we know that Winnie Mandela is our sorority sister. And I just think it's very important. I keep sharing with the Delta. We need to go. We need to take a group to South Africa, and we need to celebrate Winnie. Because whatever else you think about Nelson, and whatever else you think about South Africa, whatever, that's not my point here. My point is that Nelson Mandela fell in love with Winnie, which is why he divorced his first wife and married her. We know that South Africa said to Nelson Mandela, you can save the country, or you can have Winnie, but you can't do both. And we forget that one of the things that he gave up a lot of anger, he gave up a lot of rage. Nelson did a lot, but the main thing that he gave up for South Africa was Winnie. And that's true, and I think that we have to acknowledge that Winnie was enough woman to say to Nelson, I will, in the words of Whitney, I will always love you. You go and do what has to be done. The country needs you more. Because you remember they sent her up country just so she wouldn't even be around, because they were determined not to have her in the White House. And so again, you have to give Winnie credit for being a great woman. And you have to understand that Nelson made a great sacrifice. So when they keep making these movies about Nelson, and I'm enjoying the movies that I read, Morgan Freeman was in that last thing, I want to see the one where he is telling her, I'm going to have to leave. And she is telling him, I understand, our love will survive this. I'll see you in heaven. That's the movie. Somebody sitting in this room can read a book and get the history and write that movie, because there's something else to be said besides the shit that we keep saying. Some of you don't know this, and this is not just Nikki's thing of the Delta. I just want to share the Delta. This is part of the history. The Deltas in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is a big chapter. The Deltas in Knoxville College, in those days, as some of the older sororities know, in those days, you could not join the sorority until you graduated from college. Now you can join it yourself, or we had changed that. But in those days, my mother went over, Mary McLeod Bethune is the one who came over to do it. They took them over the night before, so that when Mrs. Bethune came, Dr. Bethune came, they were able to give her the Delta handshake. But the Deltas, and then this is what I wanted to share, the Deltas in Knoxville, Tennessee, were trying to do a fundraiser. And as you recall, everybody disliked Franklin Roosevelt, all of the conservatives. Some people dislike us, dislike Franklin. And that's true, that'd be another long story. But the Deltas decided what we ought to do, because the dime came out, the Roosevelt dime came out. They said, why don't we have a March of Dimes? You've heard that. Yeah. They went up to, this is true, they went up to Gay Street, which was the main street at that point, in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they had a March of Dimes. And everybody put a dime, so that moved them along, moved them along. Of course, in all fairness, I'm in a good mood, I'm not mad at white people. But white people take over things, and then they don't want to tell you, thank you. And then, so they took over the March of Dimes, and it's like, we don't, Negroes? I don't know any Negroes. But that's true. They can say thank you someday, I'm done. We marched 100 years ago into a sisterhood. We came together in love and patience, already called to assembly by our mother sorority. The suffragettes did not want us. We needed to, had to, must break out. The suffragettes did not want us, offering only the back of the march. Our other did not understand us, so we went our separate ways. But the time had come. Black women could no longer wait. We marched. We marched for the vote. We marched against lynching. We marched about bombings and burnings. We marched for dimes, which the country took over without giving us credit for the idea. We marched for better housing, for the pig project in Mississippi. We founded the first family planning project in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which was burned down by bigots. We recognized you cannot be anti-abortion while supporting capital punishment. By what right must I birth him that you put him in the electric chair or in prison for life for a crime he did not commit? We sisters of Delta Sigma Theta stood in the past. Dorothy Height was mentored by our great soror, Mary McLeod Bethune. Every president from FDR to LBJ had a Delta in his kitchen cabinet. Gene Noble famously boarded a New York train to put the power of DST with Daisy Bates and the Little Rock Nine. We stood for the freedom, for the future. When Lillian Bimbo to own a satellite in the sky, to be the first Black Greek organization to make firm and dignified images of us on screen. When there was a need for a voice, our beloved soror, Barbara Jordan, led the defense of the United States Constitution and therefore the impeachment of a president. We are great. Our sisterhood remains strong and committed. We go stronger on the love we share. We marched 100 years ago, and we will march 100 years from now, because we are Delta Sigma Theta. We stand for the good and the right. It's just so much good history out here that you just want the kids to know you can write about anything and just keep doing it. I'm going to close on one of my favorite poems called Ego Tripping. I was born in the Congo. I walked through the Professor and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine, perfect light, and bad. I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I am a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert. With a pack of goat's meat and a change of clothes, I crossed it in 2 hours. I'm a gazelle. So swift, you can't catch me. For a birthday present when he was 3, I gave my son, Hannibal, an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows ever on. My son Noah built Newark, and I stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intoned my loving name. All praises, all praises. I am the one who would save. I sowed diamonds in my backyard. My bowels deliver uranium. The filings from my fingernails are semi-precious jewels. On a trip north, I caught a cold and blew my nose, giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip. Even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach east and had to round off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thinned, and gold was laid across 3 continents. I am so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal, I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in the sky.